Hey, 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 welcome to Sherba Mate Talks. So great to be with you guys today. I put a link to the stream in the chat if you'll be interested in joining later. We are talking about changing our minds, what it takes to change our mind, how to change our mind. And of course, in order to do that, we do a couple things. First of all, we're going through a book. I just kind of summarize a chapter each week where we go through the book How Minds Change by David McRaney. So we'll be doing chapter 1 today. We did the intro last week, and I'll be talking about chapter 1 today. It'll be a short thing. Max says, think I blinked out there for a second. Uruguay, Uruguay, Uruguay. Yep, loving the hat. So I got this while I was in Uruguay visiting Max. So I like to wear it. I'm gonna have to come back and get another one at some point. I've worn this one. It's gonna be worn out soon. Hello, Doctor G. Whoever that is. Hello, 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 hello. Good to see you guys. I'm looking forward to talking more about changing our mind. Once again, put the link in the chat if you'd like to be able to join and we can talk about changing our mind. Before I jump into the sort of summary where I talk about the chapter of the book, I wanted to talk about experience I had last night, which made me think about changing our mind. So last night I got invited to play cards. So I was playing cards, and this particular group plays poker, and so we were playing poker, which they play for money, which I don't particularly find fun necessarily, but I I was in the money, so that's good. I guess I was good enough to uh to come out ahead. But anyway, while we were sitting there playing poker, I was talking to the guy next to me, and we were talking about sports. It's like often comes up. So we're chatting about sports, and uh he's like, "Oh, I used to love the NBA." He's like, back in the Michael Jordan days in the 90s, Larry Bird, late 80s, early 90s, love the NBA. And I was like, I love the NBA now. The NBA is my favorite thing. I love to watch the NBA. I love to follow the NBA. I'm a huge NBA fan, but I was saying, when I was in Kansas, no one cared, and he didn't seem to care either. And he started giving me all these reasons why the NBA wasn't worth watching today. And as someone that knows a lot about the NBA, I really wanted to argue with him a lot and be like, "You are completely wrong about this NBA thing. It is better now than it has ever been. The people are more skilled, the defenses are more sophisticated, so much better than college. College guys are like chickens with their head cuts off because they just run around not knowing what they're doing, blah, 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 blah." And I thought to myself, you know what? I could lay out all these facts to demonstrate why the NBA is as good or better than it was in the 90s. I could go through all of his arguments. I could knock them down one by one. And do you think he would change his mind about whether he liked the NBA? Nope. I bet it wouldn't have changed his mind at all. He still wouldn't like the NBA. No matter how many facts or figures about the quality of the defense or the speed of the game or the physicality or whatever arguments he might bring up, I wouldn't have been able to convince him at all. So anyway, I thought that was an interesting anecdote as far as me having this idea that I've been thinking about lately of how to actually change people's mind, and whether my ability to change people's minds could grow, and whether I could change my mind, because I might be stuck and maybe the NBA is terrible and I shouldn't be watching it, and I should be watching reruns from the 90s, and watch the Bulls again. So anyway, if you'd like to argue with me about the NBA and why if you think it's terrible when I think it's awesome, you're welcome to go on. I'm a huge LeBron fan. You're welcome to jump on, or any other topic. If you'd like to join the stream, you're welcome to pop on. I will be doing the summary first, but after that, if there's any guests that'd like to come on to either talk about changing their mind or argue about something. Now, when we argue, obviously the goal of the argument is not particularly to change our minds about politics or the NBA or whatever subject you decide you wanted to discuss with me about. The goal of the discussion is to think about why we would or would not change our mind, why we were arguing about this kind of thing. So, the book. Let's look at chapter 1. Chapter 1 was really simple enough that I didn't even bother to make a PowerPoint or anything like that. The chapter is called Post Truth, and the chapter is primarily about a particular guy, and his name was Charlie Veach. I have never heard of this guy. I've never heard of Charlie Veach before. I didn't know who he was, but apparently he was a major conspiracy theorist and believed in the 9/11 was an inside job, all that kind of stuff. And they invited this Charlie Veach to be on some kind of show, maybe some sort of TV show. I'd be interested to know if anyone ever watched the show. And what they did was they would take these people and they would have them interview experts to try to change their mind. Like, we're going to show you what it would really take for 9/11 to be an inside job. So, they take them to the tower. They have an expert explain how it would have crashed, what it would have taken to have it be demolition, automatically explained. All the stuff is explaining all the stuff about whether how much heat it would take to get the whatever hot metal hot enough to have it go down. I don't know through it all. Know it. I don't know all the conspiracy super well, but anyway, they go to convince this guy, and the reason this guy was particularly interested is because this guy changed his mind. He decided, "Yep, I was wrong about all those conspiracies," and he switched. And so he decided that it wasn't true. And of course, he was a big online presence. He was buddies with Alex Jones, or at least to a degree. He had been on Alex Jones's show and so on and so forth. And what happens to him when he changes his mind? Completely ejected from the community. Alex Jones says, "I knew he was an inside job, on the inside the whole time. This guy, he's full of it." And what, of course, did I think of when I listened to this chapter about Charlie Veach? I thought of Jaron from Jaronism. Yep, here it is, the flat earther that changes his mind because he goes and sees the 24-hour sun in Antarctica, realizes that because of the 24-hour sun, there is no flat Earth, and the Earth is a globe. And what does he do? He gets completely kicked out of the movie, or out of the community. Oh, got a comment here I wanted to look at. The NBA has no dialectics. I do not know what you mean by the NBA not having dialectics, but you're welcome to jump on and discuss it with me if you want to. Um, Max says, I was thinking of Jaron too. I can ask him if he'd like to join you for some stream. That'd be great. I bet you there'd be a particular chapter that I'd like to be able to talk to him. So if he would be interested, I'd certainly like to have him on and thinking about this idea of changing your mind. Um, uh, Dux Y has some more possible things to argue about. I guess Dr. J, Israel is not violent or obsessed with Mossad. If you'd like to jump on and debate, discuss, I'd be happy to. I'm probably more pro-Israel than some, so or at least not caring about Israel as much as some. So if there's like a really big person who's excited about Palestine and thinks that they're getting genocided and all that, you're welcome to come on and we can discuss it and think about what it would take to change your mind. So love to have you be able to join the chat and be able to discuss it. I'll go ahead and put that link in again. So speaking of Jaron from Jaronism, we had the Final Experiments final debate this week. I think we covered it, and I think that was another interesting sort of concept as far as changing our mind. It seems like Will did his absolute best um, to try and come up with a way to give all the facts. He tried to make money not an object to change people's minds. And it seems like he was super unsuccessful. And you say, well, he wasn't totally unsuccessful. Like Jaren from Jarenism was someone that changed their mind. And I have a thesis on why Jaren changed his mind and maybe others didn't. I think that Will was really nice to Jaren. And Jaren's experience with Will was that Will was an upstanding guy. Will spent all this money to be able to send Jaren down to Antarctica and treated him well the whole time. And somewhere in there, Jaren's information got leaked out through Flat Earth Dave's app, and Flat Earth Dave didn't do anything about it. And so I would love to talk to Jaren about the emotional switch there. Suddenly he had negative emotions towards Flat Earth Dave because the whole app thing wasn't taken care of. And then Will is being really, really nice to him. Matter of fact, I think Will's greatest superpower is that he's just a super nice guy. And I really think that's hard to keep going. I'm almost glad that Will is leaving the whole discussion because I think he would just become super jaded and end up being kind of being harsh, like a lot of people have become in that sort of debate sphere. But I think that has been his superpower. So we have our Charlie Veach. So Charlie Veach, he changes his mind, he gets excised from his community, and he moves on. And so the author of the book here in this chapter 1, he goes on to say, he's like, we're in the internet age. People can just go on the internet and find any information they want. I would consider myself a sports fan, but I now have to say I'm not even sure I'm a sports fan. I'm like only an NBA fan. I realize my favorite baseball team is the Houston Astros, and I don't know if I can name 2 players on their team. My favorite football team is the Tennessee Titans. I don't know if I can name any players on their team currently. I mean, it's because I can go and learn just about the NBA. So now that's what I know a lot about. And so this guy, and he's musing in his book, hey, I think in this world, I started to become of the mind that because we can just go find whatever we want, we can always find people that agree with us. We can just silo ourselves so hard that we are like never, ever going to be in a situation in which people are going to change our minds with any kind of frequency. We are stuck. He became extremely pessimistic because we're in this sort of post-truth world, he called it, where you're just going to go find whatever you want. And the tribalism has gotten so bad that he didn't think his mind would change. But at the end of the chapter, he teases the rest of the book. And at the end of the chapter, his tease is that he started working with a group whose whole goal was to change people's minds. That's what they do. That was their job. The next chapter is called Canvassing, and he's going to go through what he learning about how to change people's minds. And so that is what we're going to be continuing on. Maybe next week we'll do a couple chapters. This one was so short, I almost wish I would have done a few chapters because it was primarily about this Veach guy and how he got excised from his community. And this is something I feel like I don't need to explain too much to you guys because I feel like we've gone through this with Jaren. We watched it happen, right? Someone actually changed their minds and they get excised from the community, and we see so many people that are unwilling to change their mind about things. So that's what I have for today. If no one wants to jump on and have a little discussion or debate, we can end it here. Uh, I know we have more content coming up here in the future. Max, of course, will be doing his streams. We'll be doing after shows. I know Issa has some stuff planned, and I think we're going to be reviewing a debate with Destiny. That is sort of an interesting thing, watching Destiny's debate. I don't know too much about Destiny personally necessarily, but politically, I think he's interesting. He's kind of a moderate Democrat, which is maybe what I would consider myself. If there's anybody who would like to bring up any of those discussions or debates, you're welcome to join the stream anytime. Every week, I'm here to discuss, and we can go about it. Oh, Max says he's going to jump on. Sounds like he's got something he wants to chitter chat about, so we'll be welcoming him. here in a few minutes. So, things that we could argue about. I know a lot about the NBA. We happy to argue about politics or anything related to that. I think America was justified in dropping the nuclear bomb. You're welcome to discuss that with me. Um, I am a moderate Democrat, so I'm against, owning the means of production and so on and so forth. If you want to discuss that, we could. Certainly, I'm not a big Donald Trump fan. We could obviously discuss that as well, and whether that's there. Matter of fact, I might even be willing to argue that the Republican Party is more of like a cult than anything else. If you'd like to discuss that, and we can think about what it would take to change our minds. That way, the next time you guys are at playing poker with a group of people, and someone says your favorite sport's not worth watching anymore, you can sort of discuss with them um, with it. Maybe you'll have some luck changing their mind. Ducks Y says, I'm a huge Dennis Rodman fan. No offense. I think Rodman actually helped the Spurs commit to the super team in the back office. Helped the Spurs commit to the super team in the back office. So Rodman went from the Pistons, then he went to the Spurs, I believe. That didn't go well, so then he eventually ended up with the Bulls, I think, after that. I'm not sure what this has to do with the super team. Spurs realized Popovich needed players. He was Phil Jackson in Texas, like I said, and he is dedicated to building a new team. If you're saying things went so bad, why Rodman was there, that the Spurs realized they needed to do something else, I guess. I'm not totally sure where you're going with that. You're welcome to jump on and try to explain it to me. Max, welcome. How are you this
Hello, I'm doing really, really well. I got a raise in my office job
Hey,
yesterday. So yay.
that's fantastic.
I
Uh,
yes, it was a surprise because he didn't tell me. He told me when he sent me, the payment. So yeah, happy about that. Um I
go
Yes,
ahead.
go ahead.
I was gonna. Well, I
I
was. Sorry. I'll let you go first. Now I've got a question for you.
Yeah, no problem. I was speaking about this yesterday with some of our friends from the Globe side community, and I am starting to be. I'm almost convinced of the thing that you have been telling us for a while now, that you can change people's minds with kindness, with comprehension, with empathy, and with letting people take it at their pace. And we have the we have the example of Jaren. We have the example of Lisbeth. She went also, and she's no longer a flat earther.
She's not.
Also,
She officially changed. I didn't know that. Was that recent, or did I just miss it?
yes,
I'm not as into the flat Earth as you. Tell me about that a little bit.
yeah, Toon is in more contact with her, and I'm thinking of inviting her over and talking about the change. Hopefully, she agrees
Mm-hmm.
to come on and talk to me again, because we did have a lovely interview. Some people went a little bit crazy at that time because they were mad that she still wasn't ready to make her change. But it was a thing of just I had a lovely talk with her. She's lovely. She's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought at that time it was just a matter of time. So I talked with her about the trip itself. And some people got really pissy with me and with her because she was still not ready to make that commitment. But all it took was to just leave it alone. People
Mm-hmm.
take different times to process, to internalize. And in her case, it also has to do with the emotional response to, for example, Flatzoid saying that she was the town bicycle and that kind of stuff. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that played a huge role, because on the one hand, she had a lovely interview with me. I didn't judge her. Um, I didn't try to force her into a position that she wasn't ready to take. And then on the other hand, we have the flatter side completely losing their shit, um, inventing, conspiracies, like the one, my favorite, the one with the ramen noodle cup, and saying that Jeran was a sun worshiper because it was a Spanish cup of noodles that said sabor a pollo, like t- chicken taste, chicken flavor, right? So I think that played a huge part, and I'm almost. Oh, look, Jack Federer was one of the people I was speaking with last night. Hi, Jack. Says neither of them are ardent globe earthers now. They seemingly have accepted it, but it's not a rising endorsement that they change much. I understand that, but I think, like
Is
Dr.
he
J
saying
says,
Jaren isn't an ardent supporter? Absolutely, Jaren is. Holy cow, his stream is like I've heard the stupid Home Depot thing like 800,000 times from Jaren. I don't know how much more of an ardent supporter he could be. Yeah, he doesn't believe in the moon landing, I guess, but as far as the flat Earth stuff, I feel like he's gone pretty hard on the globe.
yeah.
Anyway, sorry I
Uh,
interrupted you.
no, it's okay. And it's all about timing, right? And letting people process the stuff, and people go at different rates, and emotional. This kind of when you have a core belief, I really equate that to, for example, losing a loved one. You go through the exact same stages of grief that you would do when you have something tragic happen and that kind of thing. So I am convinced that you are correct on that. It's a lot more changing it with kindness and with empathy and comprehension. We also see it, for example, with Peter Markley. The last time we touched on this issue, Peter told me right now he went from being a young Earth creationist because that's how he was brought up, that's what he was taught, and right now his position is I don't know. So it's not about like, okay, come, accept evolution, accept everything with
Right.
like, no, it's just like let him process, accept that it might not be at your rhythm, and this is something internal, so it will go at his rhythm. And I love that, and I love the journey that he's on, and I support him. Peter is a fantastic guy. I love him, and Katie, both are awesome, and I support them in their journey, even if, like, for example, his new position is sort of a God made evolution that way. That is, like, to me, a lot of progress from evolution is fake and the Earth is 6,000 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So
But
all
and I think a way to guarantee he wasn't going to change his mind would have been to make fun of him. In my
yes,
opinion, he
definitely,
absolutely would have never changed his mind if we went on our channel or other channels and we mocked him and went at him. I think his brain would have completely turned off to even bothering to look at
yeah,
the information.
yeah. On the other hand, there are some people which, like, for example, the crazy lady that I debated, or some other people who you debate that are not going to change their mind. So there, I give myself a little license to have a little fun,
Yeah.
right?
Well, the flat Earth community is very, very interesting because we have different types of characters. I think Will
Yes.
was sort of the kind of the example of someone who I think really was trying to change people's minds. And he was
Yes.
very, very nice. And he tried to be very, very nice the best he could. Obviously, flat Earth people sometimes made it hard because of how mean they were to him, but he tried to be as nice as possible. And then you have maybe some other examples of people whose strategy is not to change people's minds, but just make it so if someone's on the fence, they see flat earthers getting made fun of or something like that, and so they won't trying to prevent flat Earth or whatever. It's almost like there's globe communities where we sort of, if you're in, you're in, like you're one of us, but if you're not one of us, you're going to get absolutely made fun of and brutalized, and therefore it is a way to keep the globers in to not switch to flat, but it does not work to switch people from flat to globe at all
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's an absolutely, you have to adhere to the globe or we are going to totally completely brutalize you. And this is YouTube. We do content for fun and for um we do YouTube content, you know, because of what we're interested in. Sometimes it's for entertainment, right? And so I don't judge other people's YouTubes if they want to do something for fun or because they enjoy it or they think it's good. It's totally fine. But people certainly have significantly different paths to doing it. I think trying to change flat earthers' minds publicly with a ton of empathy on a YouTube channel, I think would just grate on you. Don't you think? I mean, can you? I cannot imagine. I mean, if they attack you like they did Will and go after you, I just don't think one would be able to keep up the kindness and empathy over the long term.
Yeah. And usually a lot of the problem is that when someone is just, oh yeah, you're just an indoctrinated glober and just starts deflections, and you notice that they're not having an honest conversation, then okay. That is like, yeah, okay, I'll take my license. I'll just mock you a little bit, do a couple of jokes, and you're not going to change your mind. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I have someone sent me a video from Gotze Gibbon, love her, where she said the title of the video is "I debated a creationist and I changed his mind." So we might
really.
Yes,
maybe we should review that. Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
I have it. I have it there saved because this week I think we have all the content until Monday because there's a bunch of after shows. We have the stream plan for the Destiny debate review on Friday. There's another debate on Saturday. So we're busy, but next week we can definitely do that because it looks interesting as hell, and I love her. So
I heard you were in a very long line to be her second husband. Is what I heard that you're
second, third, fourth. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I'm not the jealous kind.
No,
but yeah, she's so good.
Well, that would be interesting. Dr. J is actually an Andrew Wilson impersonator. Changed my mind. I need to start chain smoking. Otherwise, I feel like I'm not impersonating super well. So I need to hit the cigarettes a bit harder to be able to pull that.
Oh, look who we have here. One of our. Oh shoot, I'm not the director. Sorry. We have one of our friends.
Oh, hey, there we go. We got.
You remember DV, right?
Yes, I do. I'm gonna kick you off. Is that okay? And I'll chat with them a little while. Unless
for sure.
Because I'm sorry I didn't set it up to have more than two of us on here. I should have goofed around with my hotkeys more. But
do you want me to? I can set it up. But if you want, talk to DV.
I'm gonna kick you off, bring him on, and then you set it up. How does that sound?
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty well. It's great to be get to touch these things at Europe friendly times. So
yeah. What do you want to chat about? Do you want to argue with me about something particular? You want to just
well, I was just listening about particularly how you talked about the flat Earth thing and the flat Earth community there, and I mean it got me thinking that. I'm still not entirely convinced personally of, I mean, obviously I get the flat earth debates are entertaining. And in my own case, I didn't study physics for very long. I actually do learn things whenever I listen to the globe earth side because of all the different proofs we can use to know that the earth is a globe. But I'm not entirely convinced that flat earth debates help with the problem of flat earth very much, because most people who are going to go up and genuinely be like, oh yeah, I definitely believe that the earth is flat, I'm not convinced that they don't believe that they have an answer for everything you'll say.
I am of the mind that flat earth debates don't change anyone's mind either. I think that they're fun, so that's a good enough reason to have them, right? If people want to do it for fun, it's just totally great. So I don't mind them going on, but I don't think they work. And I think if you were a globe debater and you were really trying to change people's mind, you would want good arguments and stuff, but being really nice would actually help, as much as anything. and I don't think that's why people are doing them. We're doing them for fun. So it's fine to be crazy or go full craziness or whatever. Oh, okay. But if you really
Go
want to
full FTFE.
yeah, go full
I mean,
FTFE.
I think FTFE handles a lot of the flat earthers appropriately, because these people, like, a lot of what they say is genuinely so stupid that you're not doing yourself a favor by pretending it isn't. But because it's so stupid, I fail to see how you could ever argue somebody out of it.
So I'm guessing that if you're a really high level evolutionary scholar, whatever that means, you're an evolutionary scientist, 6,000 year 6-day creationist to you is completely stupid. It is
Yes.
absolutely moronic, right? Like you just can't even hardly get your mind around anyone who could believe it, right? So you
Yes.
say, then if a Peter Markley or me or someone like that, who's, I feel like I'm a relatively smart guy who at some point believed in 6-day little creation, argues with that person, and that person mocks me relentless, because to them my ideas are just incredibly stupid. I clearly don't know what I'm talking about. I'm not an expert in this area. I watch some Ken Ham videos or whatever, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I get mocked relentlessly about the thing. If your goal was to change my mind, that would not work.
No.
Even I deserve it, right?
Yeah.
Because I did deserve it in a sense, because what I would be arguing is just really dumb.
I think the difference between the flat earth and the evolution debates on that is that the vast majority of people have a very basic understanding of evolution. And to have an evolution debate and make a case for evolution, it gives you an opportunity to dive into the sciences in a public platform outside of an academic conference that a lot of science communicators could benefit from. But the difference of flat earth is that it's so obvious to anyone, to almost anyone, that the earth is not flat, that you kind of run out of things to say. And it doesn't seem like the same opportunity to be a science communicator and say, here's how evolution works, by the way,
right,
as an evolution debate would be. So I'm not sure.
I would argue that is it possible you have forgotten what it might be like to not be able to prove the globe?
Possibly.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you've been around it so long, it's hard to remember what it would have been like to have no knowledge around the globe flat thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, questions
it's like 2 years ago, I couldn't have argued for the globe for nothing, right? I didn't care. I didn't know. I wouldn't have been able to give you 2 arguments.
My favorite argument for the globe, I think I'll reserve in case I could do a flat earth debate at some point. But I've seen a couple of arguments adjacent to it, but I've never seen the argument itself actually made. So it's like, whenever I think of all the different ways you could say the Earth's a globe, well, I have one that hasn't been used yet. But also, it's like, whenever you hear like total lunatics like Dustin Nemos will use. Would say that we all laughed at the idea of Christopher Columbus falling off the edge. Yes, we did all laugh at that idea because it's silly, and you haven't proven how Ferdinand Magellan was able to go from where he started to where he started if the Earth isn't a globe.
Right. That would be a good one. But I would argue, and then we'll take you off and bring Lucas on. I'm going to try to do these one-on-one rather than a panel.
I'll jump off then. I'll let you be. Dave, it's a pleasure to see you again, my friend. I'm glad you could make it. Dave, I love Dave. Dave is cool as hell.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's just a shame that we lost so much of our earlier discussions.
Yes, but what you gonna do?
Yeah, unfortunately.
I'll let you. I'll put everything back the way it was.
Okay, and Dave and I'll finish, and then I'll bring Lucas on.
Yeah.
So I was gonna say globe flat. Can't remember. I was gonna say something. Yeah. I guess we can wrap up. I do think you should consider empathizing with people that don't know anything about it, because like
Hmm,
2 years
yeah.
ago, I just didn't know anything about. I didn't care. I mean, so yeah, I got an A in science class at some point, which my science teacher was probably bad. Then I went to college. I
Yeah.
slept out of my science somehow, amazingly. I was just a good test taker, right? So
Yeah,
why
yeah.
would I know any of these arguments? I just didn't know any of them, and so I think it's something to consider. Dave, thanks for coming on. We'll be on next Thursday. Love to have you join again. We can chat.
Yeah, great to be on.
Chat again, and we'll bring it, take you off, and I'll bring
Yeah,
up
yeah.
Lucas. Hey,
Hey, how's it
Lucas.
How you
Good.
doing?
Have we met before and I've forgotten? I'm not recognizing your face instantly.
You know, I don't know that we've been on together. If we had, I think maybe it was for a little bit on the panel.
Okay.
By the way, y'all have been killing it. Been loving the content since channel went up and everything. So
thank you.
You know, I have a kind of a serious topic, but I don't want to get anyone in trouble with TOS. It's in relation to what just happened in Minnesota. I think it's an important conversation to have, you know, as a country at the moment. But if you don't think that that's a good idea, I'll defer to a different topic.
The thing in Minnesota was the shooting?
Correct.
Yeah. I don't know a ton about it other than the headline. So
Likewise, yeah.
Yeah, if we do talk about it, we should just talk about it in kind of general terms. We don't want to get into.
Right. Yeah, exactly. My thinking was, in the spirit of changing mind, maybe I could just open with this. I feel like we've reached this level, like we're having not only this national tragedy, but on a daily basis, we're having, you know, dozens to hundreds of deaths, to the extent that.
And are you talking about gun deaths specifically? Or you kind of?
Yeah, and homicide specifically. I mean, when you look at the rate of homicide in some of these cities like New Orleans, Memphis, Baltimore, come to mind, St. Louis, they are so high that it's almost difficult to imagine. I mean, I think that Memphis's homicide rate at one point was like 80 per 100,000. Just think about that for a second. 80 per 100,000. That's like 1 in 1,000 people in the city. And so I'm just curious because I feel like we've reached this impasse where we're not really making any sort of meaningful progress. And I look back at the 90s, and we could disagree on the policy or whatever, but there was a certain level of consensus of taking action. And I feel like that has largely gone away. And we've sort of moved into two really hostile camps towards each other, right? And
oh, am I frozen? I think is Lucas frozen just and I'm good. Max, you hearing me? Give me a nod. Okay, there we go.
Hold on 1 sec. Let me switch to my hotspot because I'm at a hotel and the Wi-Fi is not very good.
Okay, so as Lucas switches the hotspot, yeah, isn't that annoying? I'm gonna complain about this way you do that. Hotels provide internet and it stinks super bad. What is the deal there? How hard is it to get internet in a hotel that's good enough to at least do a live stream? If we
Yeah,
can do
okay,
it from
sorry
our
about that.
phones, we should be able to do it from the hotel. So anyway,
Okay.
my rant about annoying hotel crappy Wi-Fi over. Lucas, continue on.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering, and the thing that I struggle with is, so I'm a Second Amendment supporter. You know, I believe in the right to self-defense, and I think that despite some issues, Heller and Bruen largely got the constitutional issue correct. Nonetheless, we know that there, even within Heller and Bruen, which is the law of the land, there are avenues for lawful gun control within that. And I think that as a society, that's the conversation that we should be having. I'm just curious if you have any thoughts, and maybe I'm changing the format too much here, so we could always go back and you could give a view that you have on the topic and I could give my view and we could talk about it. But if you have any thoughts as to how do we bridge that divide and kind of find the ability to actually do something on a national level, because I don't believe on the facts. There's some degree of evidence that state level regulations work, but for these type of events, it doesn't really seem to be the case that it works.
Yeah, let's just sort of make sure we agree on the state of the situation. You're saying crime's bad, and we'd love to have crime be down, specifically violent crime, and
Yep.
guns are a big part of violent crime. Obviously,
Absolutely.
what happened in Minnesota, hard to do without a gun, I assume. I don't know a
Absolutely.
ton about that situation, but I assume hard to do without a gun. And so you're saying I think we should be worried about doing it. We used to be more worried about it. Now, we probably agree crime was worse in the 90s. Crime has been
Totally.
slowly going down, but I'm not disagreeing that would be lovely to do more about crime. No, we should have less crime, obviously. And so you're kind of thinking we've moved into two camps, and we just can't seem to get anywhere discussing how do we get to a situation where things like Minnesota and other kind of violent crimes, especially related to guns, how can we keep these things from happening? Is that your thoughts?
That's what I'm thinking, or at least move towards that direction, right? Because we know it's a really complex issue, but I feel like right now we're sort of just in this deadlock, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because of that deadlock, the people that want to basically we've gotten to almost like so. For example, let me give you an example. When the federal assault weapons ban was passed in 1994, about 80% of the American public supported it.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically asked, would you ban assault weapons? 80% said yes, and only 18% said they were opposed. Mm-hmm. Today, that number is 56%, and I believe it's 40% opposed.
Mm-hmm.
So my point being that public perception, I think, has really changed around those policies to the extent that and I kind of wonder why that's been the case. And what I feel as a Second Amendment supporter is that there's a complete lack of trust from the people that own guns. And we could talk about a variety of reasons why that's the case, in the people that are trying to move towards more regulation on guns. And I feel like the first step of making any meaningful progress would be restoring that trust. And I'm wondering how we could do that.
It's a good question. I do think that the people that are sort of pro zero gun control at all, basically, have done a really good job of tying a lot of emotions to it. And these emotions are like, I need freedom, right? They want, freedom's an important thing, and they connect it strongly to freedom. And if the government takes your guns, they're gonna come take your land or whatever else later, right? And it becomes very emotional, whether any of that's true or not. I'm not sure that's super factual particularly, but the emotions are super strong. There is a strong emotional attachment to certainly me, for being in the Midwest. I was like shooting guns with my family as being a kid, right? I own a gun. We shot Blue Rock and all that. And so there's like a sort of family emotional connection for anyone that grew up shooting guns. They are like a super fun toy, right? If you just talk about fun toys, 4-wheelers and shotguns or whatever. And so I think there is a lot of emotions, and they've really played on those emotions big time. And it does seem like we do get pushed into a camp, and I just don't know if I were going to change your mind individually on saying we need more gun control. I feel like I have a path of success that I could do that. I don't know how to do it on a national level. Does that make sense?
It does, because my position is that when it comes to the Constitution, we have, and maybe it's a cliche to say that rights aren't absolute, but I think we've moved into this sense where people are thinking about the Second Amendment in particular as absolute. And we know that even under we moved from like a collective rights to an individual rights interpretation, and there's all that movement. But even under the existing law of the land, which is Heller, Bruen, McDonald, those cases, we're allowed time and place and manner and dangerously unusual weapon type regulations. But I just wonder, how do we get past that block of, we have, I would say maybe and this is just kind of going off of the assault weapon ban numbers as a proxy, if 40% of the country says, I believe the Second Amendment is absolute, well, yeah, how do you work with that?
Yeah.
And I think the problem, so
well, I was going to say on an individual level, you could talk about it like this. You go, okay, yeah, I understand Second Amendment. I would probably really empathize. I'd probably like, yep, I love guns. They're the greatest toy ever. You can understand, and especially rural situations where there might be wild animals around, why it actually is safer to have them. And, we could discuss all this in agreement. We go, but do you think we should all be allowed to have tanks? And everyone will go, yeah, you're right. We all probably should have tanks. Not everyone. Yes, I agree. I've discussed it with people who think we should be able to have the tanks.
Right, exactly.
But do you think we should, any kind of limit? Should we, on anything? Yes, we can have a limit. Okay. So principally, we may not be that far. We think there should be some limits on things. Like maybe we all shouldn't have ultimate, the biggest bomb in the world. We should limit that. Okay. So we agree with limits. You believe there's limits. I believe there's limits. So we are just trying to draw a line, right? Our principles are the same. We want safety. We enjoy guns. We can talk about the positives, the things we like about guns, and the helpful things about that. And then so we're just talking about where we draw that line. So maybe that you're okay with drawing a line with no automatic weapons, but I want to ban all AR-15 style semi-automatic up to a certain caliber, blah 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 blah, whatever, right? Like we could draw the line in different places, but we don't really disagree that much. We kind of in principle agree on this stuff. We just need to discuss the line. Where should the line be? Like I think the line also might include we shouldn't allow people that have any kind of mental health history to have certain type of weapons. Do you agree with that line? Maybe you would, maybe you would. So anyway, that would be on an individual one-on-one level where I feel like we could possibly make some progress together.
Yeah, totally.
I don't know how to do it on a national level because it just instantly goes, they're going to take your guns or whatever. And then there is someone on the left who's going to say, yes, we should repeal the Second Amendment completely. Right. And it's easy to show all those sound bites where they want to not allow a single gun in the whole way. So anyway, so then you just go into the separate camps. It's very difficult.
Yeah, that's the thing that I'm struggling with. And I've been trying to talk to people because I think that there's a great line in Foundation. Whoever the mayor of the Foundation says, I forget if it's Harry Seldon, I forget the name, but it says a good compromise makes everyone unhappy. And I think that's the part that's kind of lost, is that we have an unwillingness. So let me give you an example. So we talked about automatic weapons, for example, right? And I think automatic weapons are a great example of effective and constitutional gun control that worked within the Second Amendment, because when in the 30s, we had, the Tommy gun era. The police were out there with little revolvers and a shotgun and a 30-30, whatever. And, the bad guy comes out of the bank and sprays the street down with a Tommy gun, and they can't get to him because they're suppressed and, bullets are flying everywhere. Well, that was a widespread problem. I mean, we had, on certainly dozens of high-profile machine gun crimes happening on a yearly basis. And so at that time, there was essentially no gun regulation nationally. And so we passed the National Firearms Act, which put machine guns on a registry that required an FBI background check to get them. So they're not banned, right? And because a machine gun is a dangerously unusual weapon, it's treated differently than, for instance, a revolver or a shotgun would be at the time. But what we saw was that we went from, dozens of these types of incidents on a yearly basis to, from the time the NFA was passed in 1934 to the mid 1980s, there was 3 crimes with machine guns on that registry. So I definitely feel like that sort of model makes sense. The problem is that we then had something that I think really set us back, which was this thing called the Hughes Amendment. And basically a senator, put a write-on to a bill and banned any new registrations of machine guns on the NFA. And the problem with that was it wasn't based on fixing a problem that actually existed. And that comes off, I think, as punitive to people, because we can maybe say like, oh, well, what do you need a machine gun for? Nobody needs to own a machine gun. But at the end of the day, that's not really how legislation works, right? We don't say like, do you need to own a Ferrari? We say,
Yeah,
what are the
exactly.
consequences to society of people owning a Ferrari, right? And that's
Right.
not a apples to apples comparison, because obviously a gun is a tool of a particular thing. But my point is to say that while we can make that argument, the Hughes Amendment effectively made it so that machine gun ownership was out of the hands of the average person, and only now because of that amendment, only weapons before 1987, I believe it was, can be on the NFA. Therefore, the cheapest machine gun you can get costs $30,000. But my point here is to say, like, and I don't know if we could agree on this, that we already had the NFA working as a regulation on dangerously unusual weapons, and also setting time, place, and manner restrictions, which are all within our understanding of how constitutional rights are regulated. So once we look at that, it seems to me that the idea of the Hughes Amendment, and maybe it would be different with the current culture of mass shootings, I don't know. But at that point in time, I don't see a case on the basis of gun violence for the Hughes Amendment, right?
Mhm.
I see it as a more of like a cultural measure where this person is like, well, nobody needs to own this. And it's like, well, maybe that could be true.
Mhm.
Nonetheless, it wasn't a problem.
Right.
And so I feel like that's really that, and with the federal assault weapons ban, was really the turning point, where I think prior to that, the average person, and then there's also the role of the NRA and all that, but prior to the federal assault weapons ban, the Hughes Amendment, and some of the stuff that happened in the 90s, the average person was pretty pro gun control. And I think even the average gun owner was. I mean, you had Republican members of the Bush administration, Bush Sr., saying, well, we don't need these military weapons of war on our streets. Can you imagine a member of the Trump cabinet saying that today?
Mhm,
So it's
mhm.
like, I feel like there's a lot of political stuff there, but it's like, from a focus point of view, we have something that worked. And then I think the sort of automatic weapons question raises another example of something that I think set us back. And
Yeah. Well, I think the reason that so if you talk to I haven't done it too much lately, but I think if I would talk to someone who's super pro gun control now, then I was suggesting we should get rid of certain type of semi-automatic weapons of a certain caliber, whatever, they would not listen to me. And unless they knew me personally, if we were good friends and they liked me, they might be willing to have this conversation.
yeah,
So I think that the people that are pro gun control have done a really good job of demonizing the people who are suggesting more gun control, to the point at which, when the people that are suggesting more gun control give their arguments, no one's listening to them.
right, exactly.
They
That's
are
the thing.
emotionally shut off. They don't
Yeah.
they will come up, they could even know a ton about the facts. They could know about all these amendments you've discussed. They could know it as well as you do and come up with a totally different interpretation, because I think their emotional connection to it is important, and they are going to use all the facts that you have to prove their point, whereas you
Right.
use all the facts you have to
Yeah,
prove
absolutely.
your point, right? And so I just think we're incredibly emotional beings. And I think, obviously, I agree with more of your position that we need some control. And my position on that is also emotional, in the sense that my understanding is too much, a lack of gun control is causing people to die. And so there's this
Right.
emotional thing where I don't want people to die, right? And I think we
Right.
should protect
Exactly.
people, and this is a value. And so for people that don't think we should have so much gun control, they value that as well. But there's some other emotional barriers, I think, that some things that are
Right.
keeping them
Well,
from thinking about it.
and it comes down to life as well. And I think this is why this is such a uniquely contentious issue, is because in one camp you're like, well, you're violating. I mean, if I'm a gun controller, I have a reasonable argument to say, hey, you are violating my right to life and happiness by not having gun control, because I'm scared to walk down the street. I'm scared to
Right.
take my children to school. And then
Right.
on the flip side, the similar argument exists on an emotional level for the people that are opposed. They're saying, well, you're saying if someone breaks into my house and wants to do harm to my family, I can't protect them. And I think that makes it really difficult. So I think you've nailed it on the head. That it's the emotional nature of it. I don't know. I know that we had a quorum in the past, and I know that there's some GOP lawmakers that are sort of breaking with the consensus in that regard. But I just wonder, how could we get past that and build that bridge to where they'll even listen? Because if I have this conversation with a lot of the people I know, like I was in a Twitter space with some pro-gun people, they're not listening either, right?
Yeah.
As soon as I mention the NFA, they say, well, the NFA sucks for this, and this. And it's like,
You're
not going to be happy with it. I'm sorry. It's
Yeah.
just, the thing is that, but I don't know.
So you're not going to like this answer, but my answer to the solution on this is ranked choice voting, because I think all the incentives line up to a two-party system to have everybody on their same teams, right?
Yes,
and then
right.
you have a team, and you will cheer for that team. And if you know anything about sports, when we get a team, we are stupid about teams. We are just stupid. When every game we watch our favorite team, we got screwed by the refs every time. Every time.
Yeah, exactly.
We got screwed by the refs. And we are completely moronic when we have a team. And because of the voting two-party system, we get super emotionally tied to this team, and therefore saying, how do we get the GOP to break with whatever? How do we get the Democrats to break? All the emotional incentives of being connected to that team are horrible to try to make that happen.
Yeah, it's like we want to win, right? We want to win against the other team. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's really what it comes down to a lot of the time.
Yeah. And so when I talk about my number one most important political issue, it is ranked choice voting, because in my opinion, ranked choice voting would be a way to have the system not be helping that team element. We will still have the team element. We'll still have problems with it. I'm not saying it's a panacea, but at least the system won't sort of feed into this team element, which I think the way we do it now feeds into a two-party system, which is a clear team element to it. And so, that's why I think ranked choice voting would help, because then when we discuss, if we were discussing gun policy, maybe the Minneapolis wants to have a thing and they have 3 people running for the same thing, and they could have 3 different ideas. And because it's ranked choice voting, they wouldn't have to just tank.
Right, exactly. It's that all or nothing thing, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious too, what your thoughts are. If you think that a lot of this, because also, we've seen more and more polarization, I think, since the early 2000s, and that happens sort of in cycles. I mean, we sort of saw this in the 70s, where we had a period of more turmoil and polarization, I would say. But at the same time, it also strikes me that after Citizens United, we've had a lot more special interest groups being involved in our politics as well. Do you feel like taking the money out of politics is also an important precondition here, or is that less important to you? I'm just curious.
I think if we had ranked choice voting, you would have a lot easier time getting money out of politics. I think the money out of politics might be my second choice, or something. So I don't know which direction would be better. Like, if you got money out of politics, maybe it would be easier to elect the kind of people that would allow ranked choice voting. Mm-hmm. Maybe your money in politics is a better step one than mine. I'm not super sure, to be honest.
Yeah, me neither.
But yeah, I think the money, I mean, on its face, it's like, hey, Lucas, you're running for this, I'll pay you. But if you don't do what I want, I'm going to stop paying you.
Right, exactly.
This is I think they're corruption or bribe. I mean,
exactly.
I mean, this is, on its face, is obviously bad. I don't quite get it, to be honest. So I agree with the money in politics thing, and maybe it would be a better number one, rather than ranked choice voting. But I just thought ranked choice voting might just sort of loosen the gears a little bit to have a little bit more movement of new ideas. And so that's why I kind of thought maybe it'd be great to be the first.
Well, the other thing too, I think that it promotes, and when we look at like parliamentary systems, right, and there's weaknesses to every system, but I feel like there's a lot more incentive for coalitions and compromises within ranked choice parliamentary systems, because one party struggles to control everything by itself. Whereas right now, I mean, what do the Republicans not control? state governments, right? And those are the ones that are on this issue pushing policy that, restricts guns more. But, in a country like, let's say, I don't know, Sweden or Norway or Denmark, for example, their functioning government is a lot more based on the idea that you have to form a coalition. And I think that naturally leads us maybe to more compromises. So I think I kind of agree with you in the end in that, and I will have to go soon, but this was a good conversation. I just want to say that I think that without addressing those fundamental causes of the team mentality, I agree that we can't get anywhere, because the thing I tend to forget, and I have my bias, right? So I approach facts in a certain way, but we aren't aware of the extent to which that emotional reasoning is at play, I feel like, in ourselves and with others, right?
Exactly.
It really is. I mean, I don't want to say it's not about the facts, but like you said, if you have an emotional appeal, you can say that the facts support your side or not based on that appeal.
Yep.
Lucas,
it's great having you. I'm at my time. I got to go back to work. Maybe you do as well, or whatever
Likewise.
it is that you need to do.
Yeah.
And so great chatting with you, and hopefully
Likewise. Thanks for
we'll
having
have
me
you
on.
on again another time. Yep. All right. We're at our time. I need to get going. I got to go back to work. Thank you all for joining us for Yerba Mate Talks. It was super great having everybody. Thank you for all the guests. I think the guests are what make it interesting to be able to keep things fresh. Next week we'll be going over another chapter or two of our book and continue discussing this issue. If you want to talk some more gun control, Max chimes in with Uruguay. We have mandatory psych evals for owning a gun. So that's a thing we could talk about more, or we could address another subject. Like, subscribe. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you again next week.